passionate about something, you'll be good at it. If you're good at it, then the money will follow, or whatever it is that you're looking for, will follow, because that's how it all, and it sounds like you're just as passionate about what you're doing and what you've got going on. And job wise, do you have a job, or is this a full-time gig for you?
Yeah. So interestingly enough, not until earlier this year was I doing this full time. So this has been a side thing since 2017.
Okay.
But then my wife and I kind of had a burn the ships moment earlier this year where it's like, okay, this is the time to see if Undaunted Life is a thing. Like if it's going to be a thing and grow and explode and do all that. And so we kind of made the decision at the same time, like, hey, let's push this, because I'm very market driven. The market's going to tell me whether or not this requires more stuff. Does this require a book? Does this require a speaking tour? Does this require more podcasts? And so we have some very interesting things coming up, but this summer has been pretty fruitful for us because I was on John Cooper's podcast. He's the lead singer of Skillet. And then I went on Mike Ritland's Mic Drop podcast. And then I went on Unashamed, which is Phil Robertson, the Duck Dynasty guy. I went on his show live down there in Louisiana. And that was, or not live, but recorded down in his studio. And
that's cool, man.
We've been able to find, like, these people are reaching out to me like, hey, I heard you on this show. I heard you on that show, man. We need more people like you. Like, I've felt this way. That's probably the biggest thing that I get told most often is I've felt this way for so long. And I thought I was crazy. Like, I look around the church and I see all these effeminate men and I just wonder why, but I didn't want to say it out loud because I thought it would get me in trouble. Right. Or, I have a podcast that's done.
Well, it's not very Christian of you.
Yeah. It's really un-Christ-like, right, to be super judgmental of people. But like episode 176 of my podcast is called Contemporary Worship Music is for Women and Effeminate Men. And it's basically talking about how these modern worship songs are incredibly effeminate in its lyrical style. And it's just not very appealing to a rough and gruff man. And like, for a guy like me, I'm into really heavy metal. And so like these songs just never really agreed with my palate. And so I did a whole show on that. And the response has been overwhelming by these guys, even pastors, like music pastors at churches that are like, you know what? I never considered the men in the congregation when picking the songs that we were going to sing on Sunday. Right. I never considered how they might feel or what they might be into. We're singing all these songs about grace and grace is important and mercy, and that's important, but those tend to be more effeminate type qualities, effeminate dominant qualities. And so, maybe we do need to sing more of the Psalms, more of, God is this, creator of everything and the true Lion of Judah, like that type of thing. And so again, we're still on the journey, Clint. Like, we're seeing some light at the end of the tunnel. We're still kind of like a fledgling business, and we're still doing things that we need to grow. We hopefully have some stuff that we can announce before the end of the year that will really get what we're doing out to a much wider audience. But part of it is going on shows like this, having discussions with guys like you, because if you look at it on paper, why in the world was I in Mike Ritland's studio? Why in the world am I on your show right now? Mm-hmm. And because it's like, I wasn't, SF. I wasn't Delta. I wasn't a SEAL. I wasn't any of these things. I'm a guy that regrets having never served in the military, but I'm a guy that kind of lives that rough, lifestyle as, just I'm welcoming that on myself every day whenever I wake up. Why would a person do that? Well, it goes back to my worldview about cultivating spiritual, mental, and physical resilience on a daily basis. And so, I'm wanting it to grow and wanting to expand out, but we'll see where it goes. We're taking it a day at a time right now.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. You're just going for it. And that's what I like is I think more people should do that. I mean, especially like we said at the beginning is, capitalism driving democracy, and you're in the country where being an entrepreneur and going after what you really love, there's no reason not to, and I think people get stuck in the daily grind and feel like they just have to be an employee when the reality is no, you can work for yourself and you can make it happen. It's not going to come easy, but you're going to love every step of it, regardless of how rough it is, because it's you. Mm-hmm. All the success, all the failure resides solely on you. And to me, that's the best feeling in the world.
Absolutely.
You have these devotionals that are on, that have been very, very successful on a particular app. So talk to me about that. And, is that how you communicate, is not just your podcast, but these devotionals as well? Yeah,
it started with the devotional. So the YouVersion Bible app, I think, is the most downloaded app of all time. I think it just went over 500 million downloads. And so it's in, hundreds of languages, every different translation that you could find, you can do. So what a devotional is it's basically somebody writes, a 21-day devotional. And so you come to there, you go to day one and you read the scripture for that day or whatever the scriptures or stories are. And then you read basically this short, application of that. And then you move on to the next day. where this all came from is back in 2016 or something like that. The church that started that app is like 3 or 4 miles away from my house, right? So right in my backyard. And I went to one of the pastors there and I was like, man, these devotionals are garbage for men. Like the men's devotionals, they were women's devotionals for men. And he's like, okay, tough guy, write one. And so I ended up writing a 21-day devotional, and it was 7 days on spiritual resilience, 7 on mental resilience, and 7 on physical resilience. And then I submitted it. I was shocked when they accepted it and put it up on the app. And then I forgot about it. And then months down the road, I had lunch with the same pastor. And on the way leaving lunch, he goes, hey, Kyle, by the way, congratulations on your devotional. And I was like, I just thought he meant getting it on the app. And I was like, yeah, thanks. He's like, no. Have you not heard the news? I was like, what news? He's like, it's the second most read devotional in the history of men's devotionals for the app, for this enormous app. And I was like, and that was behind the lead pastor of the church that started the app, right? So he gets all the extra marketing for free, right? And that's where it kind of came to me, where it's like, okay, the market is telling me that my voice is unique enough in this space. And even today, I've got 2 other devotionals. I released one earlier this summer called How to Build a Godly and Manly Foxhole. And maybe we can talk a little bit more about that, what I mean by all that. But it's just, I'm very unapologetic with how I present things. I'm very cut and dry. And I don't talk like most pastors do. I don't talk like most Christian dudes do. I'm pretty forthright and pretty forceful with a lot of people. And I guess that comes through in my writing. But the reason why I did the podcast, Clint, is because I was like, I don't like writing. It's not my favorite thing to do. You've joked before, you don't like writing either. That's why you have a lot of pictures in your books. But it's like, that's the thing. Like for me is I would much rather put 5 bullet points on a sheet of paper and then flow for 45 minutes on a podcast. And so that's just kind of what the podcast became, but it did really all start with writing these devotionals for that app.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's a great, like, kind of, there's always the story and the why with everyone. And I'm always interested in it. It's like, to me, that's the coolest part is like, okay, how did you get here? Or what kicked all this off? And plus, I think it's important for people to kind of hear all that outside of religion, everything we're talking about. It's like, hey, whatever you love and whatever your passion is, if you just take a moment and put a little effort into it, you'll probably just make huge changes and things in your life will go far more, I would say, happier, successful, whatever great positive words you want to spin on it. You're listening to Can You Survive This Podcast? Thanks for tuning in. Please make sure to subscribe, rate, and share on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your favorite shows.